Hi everyone, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the agenda for today's session is we'll be discussing what should be the ideal strategy for 2023, right? And more or less it will be applicable for 2024 as well because the initial start which we need for 2024 and 2023 is more or less the same, right? So I hope most of you here are aspirants of 2023 or 2024, right? Because then it would make the most sense to you, right? So, firstly, we'll be discussing what I have to say, right? And after that, we'll take your question, right? Uh, right. So, we're starting. See, firstly, the most important thing, we are in the month of January 2022, right? More or less, though the exam calendar is not yet out, but 90% the exam in 2023 will be in somewhere around June or May 2023, right? So roughly we have, let's say, 15 to 16 months for the first stage of the exam, right? Somewhere, let's say, less than 1.5 years, right? So two opinions emerge here, or two doubts emerge here. Is it the right time to start? Are we too early to start, or are we too late to start, right? In my opinion, this is the best time to start, right? Why? Because having 15, 16 months, this will allow you to prepare GS basics, GS advance, right? Main specific topics, optional, answer building, right? You should know what is this problem.
खुशी फुल ए खुशी तेरा नहीं तो लगा फुल
Everyone, please mute your mic, right? Answer building, as in before you start the hardcore answer writing preparation or hardcore answer writing, you should have a basic idea as to how the answers need to be written, right? Otherwise, your answer writing would be a bit hollow, right? This month, this much amount of time, this will allow you answer writing, right? The proper answer writing. This will allow you filling up your gaps, right? And also the multiple revisions, right? More or less, this is what we need, right? To have a holistic preparation and to give a good attempt in 2023, right? Otherwise, if any of the component here compromises from your end, your preparation would not be of that level which we would want, um, as in which we would want for our first attempt, right? Otherwise, it would be somewhere a compromised attempt, which we would not want, right? So GS basics, advanced, main specific topics, optional, answer building, answer writing, gap fillings, multiple revisions. All of this requires time, and 15 to 16 months is a good amount of time to cover all this in a very comprehensive and a decent manner, right? Why it is the optimum time? Because this much amount of time is needed, number one, and any time more than this, what can happen? Of course, it can be an added advantage, like, but what can happen that if you are not so, let's say, disciplined or sincere at this moment, you can easily transit into a very comfort zone. And when those extra 5 6 months would pass, you would not know, right? And somewhere then you would have a compromised preparation, right? So that is why if you are very serious about 2023, if you utilize these 15 16 months in the right manner, you would be at a very comfortable stage when your prelims would be coming in 2023, right? So first aspect we have discussed, right? So that is this is the best time to begin your 2023 preparation. Next is strategy, right? Strategy, as in I would divide strategy into, it could be for someone who has been doing some classes somewhere, right? That person can follow what his or her coaching is telling, right? Either you are about to begin the class or you have already begun the class, right? Or the strategy could be someone who is self-preparing, right? If you belong to this category, you follow what is being taught in your class, right? Whatever approach they are following, because if you have paid for that coaching, right, it would not make much of a sense to deviate from that, right, in the initial time, right? The next thing, what I'll be focusing on these students who are self-preparing, right? At least the general studies, they are self-preparing, right? So what should be the strategy for that? Firstly, begin with basic GS NCRTs, right? And when I say this, I do not mean that you have to cover all the NCRTs right from 6 to 12, right? This is not a very practical and a pragmatic approach, because then you would end up wasting your time, right? There are certain specific NCRTs which need to be prepared so that you can start your preparation in a in a decent manner, right? As in your preparation would be started as it should start, right? So try to cover these NCRTs in next 2 to 3 months, right? So let's say by April max, uh, you should have duly covered these NCRTs, right? Why 2 to 3 months? So for someone, it can take up 2 months. For someone who has read it, someone who has read some things before. For some, it can take 3 months, but 3 months should be the maximum you should be taking for this, because otherwise your things would then overlap with the subsequent uh, things which we have to do post April, right? So by April max, try to cover these basic NCRTs, right? What are those NCRTs? Number one, history, sixth, seventh, eighth. Eighth, what you have to do Read the old NCERT first, and then the new NCERT, right? Right? Because otherwise, the new NCERT won't make much of a sense to you. This sixth NCERT is for ancient, this is for medieval, and this is for modern. I would advise that you start with this old NCERT. If you are starting with your history portion, you start with this old NCERT, then you move to this new NCERT, right? And then you do this sixth and seventh NCERT. And because otherwise, ancient and medieval are bit complicated subjects, and starting your preparation with ancient and medieval can be a bit demotivating at times, right? So if you are beginning your preparation with history, you should be beginning it with modern history, right? Next, geography. For geography, most of our preparation would center around NCRTs, right? Uh, 90% of the things would be covered by NCRTs, and very lesser reference books are needed as far as geography is concerned. So, what should be your strategy for geography? Sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th NCRTs, right? These NCRTs are required to be read for overall basic understanding, right? As in, you do not need to make notes of all these NCRTs. Of course, and one thing, while you are reading it, the NCRTs in the first go, you do not have to make notes at all, right? Try to grasp the concept, the overall idea behind the things, and rather than focusing too much on making notes, right? Otherwise, you might end up copying the entire book in your notes, right? Which effectively would make no sense, right? So after this, after when you are done with 6th to 10th NCRTs, then you would move to 11th and 12th, 4 NCRT, right? So these 4 NCRTs you can say are the advanced sources for our geography, right? Next is polity. Again, most of you would be thinking, or if you have a basic idea of preparation of UPSC, or you have heard about polity from somewhere, the one thing which comes to your mind is Lakshmikant, right? But for a beginner who has absolute no idea about what polity is, starting from Lakshmikant can be a bit challenging, right? So what you can do and what you should do is that start with 11th class NCRT, Indian Constitution at Work, right? See if this book makes sense to you, right? See if you are able to comprehend this book in the right manner. If you are okay with this book, right, then continue with this book. You do not need to do the previous NCRT, right, from 6th to 10th, right? Let's say if this book you are finding a bit difficult, what you can do, you can then switch to 9th and 10th polity NCRT, right? And what in one day you can give reading to, let's say, one day for 9th NCRT, one day for 10th NCRT, and after this just switch to this NCRT, right? Otherwise, if you are able to make sense of this NCRT, 11th class NCRT, you do not need to read the 9th and 10th NCRTs, right? Next is economics. Economics, more or less, you do not need NCRT. What we need is at max the 12th class macroeconomics NCRT, right? After this, once you're done this, then the standard notes of any coaching institute, right? This much, if you do it diligently, that much is enough. right? Of course, these notes can differ, whichever coaching you want to prefer. If you have joined some coaching, that is okay. If you have not joined, then there are 3, 4 major institutes which provide good economics notes. You can refer any one of them, right? Next is environment. Basics of environment, they would be covered in geography NCRTs, right? And apart from this, what you can do, 12th class biology NCRT, there are in that last 4 chapters, they are dedicated to environment section, right? So once you have done your geography NCRTs, you can read these 4 chapters. They would give you a, a bit above what is there in the 6th to 10th NCRT, right? As far as environment section is concerned. Next is SNT, science and technology. Depending on your own comfort zone, on your own background, you can refer science and tech. Let's say for someone who does not have any idea about science and technology, you can refer to 6th, 7th, and 8th, right? And that too very quickly, right? Do not spend 2 to 3 days in that thing, right? For someone who is comfortable with this much of science and technology, you can directly go to 9th and 10th NCRT, right? But 9th and 10th NCRT you should be reading, right? At least the basic biology section you should be reading, because UPSC has now started to focus on the basic biology section, right? So this month, this is, I would say, it is somewhat compulsory, right? This thing is optional. Maybe the students who are not very comfortable with 9th and 10th directly, they can refer these NCRTs first. For someone who is comfortable with these, they can directly refer 9th and 10th NCRTs, right? Now, this is the basics which we need to do, right? Parallelly, what you would be doing, parallelly, we need to do number one, are optional, right? Number two, newspaper, right? And regarding newspaper, just a glance of 20-30 minutes for next 2 to 3 months is enough, right? Because if you are beginner, newspaper won't make much of a sense to you in the initial months, right? So do not be intimidated, do not be scared by that fact, right? This is how the preparation paces up, right? For a general aspirant, right? But you have to keep yourself in the loop as far as the newspaper is concerned, so that for so that daily you are referring it for 20 or 30 minutes, right? In that way you would somewhere be in the process as far as the current happenings are concerned, right? Do not force yourself in understanding everything, right? Because practically this won't be possible, right? So just try to read it, try to understand it as much as possible. If you feel there is some term which you can Google out and you can make some sense, you should do it. Otherwise, if you feel this is a concept which is coming later in your studies, maybe you can just ignore and keep moving, right? And no need to make newspaper notes, right? At this moment, right? So this is the job till April, right? For the next 3 months or maybe till mid-March, right? For the next 3 months. What after that? Once we are comfortable with our NCRT, right? We will then come over to our standard reference books. So this would be the second phase of our preparation. Right? What are the standards reference books for modern history? Of course, many of you would have heard Spectrum, right? Some from the last 2 years, 2 or 3 questions are not appearing from Spectrum, maybe 3 or 4 also, but we are yet to find a source which is better than Spectrum as far as output is concerned. So for the time being, we'll be sticking to Spectrum until unless we find a very good source which is better than Spectrum, right? So Spectrum would be the advice source from our side, right? After that, ancient and medieval. Once you are done with 6th and 7th NCRTs, you can go for Tamil Nadu board, new book, and theme 1 and 2. Right? These are 12th class NCRTs. Like theme 1 is basically ancient and theme 2 is basically medieval. Right? One mistake you do not have to do with this ancient medieval is that do not rush too much. Right? As in, do not force yourself too much in understanding everything in one go, right? Because ancient and medieval, it will take some time to get into your minds, right? Next is geography. More or less, the NCRTs which we have done till 12th, that is enough. Maybe if you are comfortable with 6th to 12th and you have done it decently in your previous phase, what you can do is you can just look at GC Leong second part, right? But that only when you are done with 6 to 12th in a decent manner, right? Otherwise, what you can do, even in this phase, if you have not covered your uh, geography NCRTs decently in the last phase, you can cover that in this phase, right? Next is polity. Of course, no guessings here. Lakshmikant, latest edition you can buy, or if you have purchased any edition in the recent editions, you can keep that with you also, right? Next is economics. As I've told you, 12th class NCRT macroeconomics that you can use to start your preparation. After that, standard notes of any one good coaching institute, right? Next is environment. Though the preferred book till now had been Shankar IS for the environment section, the suggestion from my side would be to go with PMFIS, right? 2021 edition, hard copy, right? But then again, this would be your choice. This is suggestion from our side. This book can give you better returns than Shankar IS, right? It is more organized, more updated, more colorful, and more comprehensive, right? Parallelly, what you will have to do Again, the same newspaper. Here, newspaper now would start making a bit more sense to you, right? Then in the last phase, right? And secondly, your optional, right? Next is the phase three, you can say, of our preparation. Let's say the phase one was till mid March or April. The next phase, May, June, July, right? Till July. And from July, you can begin your next phase, right? From August, right? August 2020. Around 3 months, August, September, October, right? What would be our priorities in these 3 months? We will cover number one, main specific subjects. Right. What are those main specific subjects? World history, post independence, society, social justice, GS paper 1, right? Governance, IR, international relations, GS2, then agriculture, internal security, disaster management, GS3, right? And ethics, GS4, right? Ethics is one subject which can be done either in phase one, or either in phase two or phase three, right? That would depend on your own comfort level. It can be done in phase two as well. It can be done in phase three as well, right? And parallelly, what you can do, this is the first thing which we have to do. Second thing, you can start basic answer writing, right? Let's say 2 questions a day, 3 questions a day, based on the topics you have read or you are reading, right? And start referring PYQs, both pre and mains. The prelims PYQ, you can even start referring in phase two as well, right? Because by that time things would start make you would start making would start to make a bit sense to you, right? So depending on your preparation or own comfort, either phase two or phase three, you can start referring prelims previous year questions, right? But these are a must. Do not delay it after phase three, right? So by October, let's say if you follow this plan, what would be your output or what would be your achievements, right? You would have done basic texts, right? You would have done Reference sources, reference as in the standard sources like Lakshmikant and the spectrum and all these things, right? You would have done main specific subjects. Basic reading of all these ones would be done, right? Then answer writing has been started, right? And you have been doing your optional for at least 8 months, right? This is our output, right? Next is phase 4, or you can say phase 4 and 5. That would depend on your preparation at that point of time, right? So it would be from November to February, right? What would be your, of course, in phase 3 as well, you would be continuing with your newspaper, right? And your optional newspaper would now start making even more sense to you. You can spend around 1 hour in reading your newspaper. Plus, one thing which you should be doing in phase 3 as well, which I forgot to tell, you can start referring monthly current affair compilation, right? Do not do it in phase 1 and 2. They won't make much sense to you if you're a complete beginner. But in phase 3, that can start to make a bit more sense to you, right? Next is phase 4 from November to February. What we should be doing ideally, but that would depend on how your preparation has paced up till October, right? Number one, GS answer writing. Now that could be a full length type of answer writing. That could be a sectional answer writing, right? That would depend on your own comfort. Number two, optional answer writing. So what you can do, let's say for 2 months of November, December, you can take up optional answer writing, and for Jan and Feb, you can take up GS answer writing or vice versa, right? Do not take up both the answer writing at the same point of time, right? Like you have subscribed to the main test series of GS as well, and you have subscribed to optional as well, and now you are not able to manage the thing, right? For 2 months, take up one test series, then for next 2 months take up another test series, right? Of course there can be an overlap of, let's say, 10-15 days, but do not but try to avoid as much as overlap as you can, right? Number three, GS revision and optional revision, right? And of course number four would be your newspaper and monthly magazine. This would continue, right? Next is last phase, phase 5 or 6, March 2023 to May 2023, assuming the exam is in either in May end or June first week, right? Accordingly, this would be the core prelims preparation time, right? So this should be the overall plan which you should be following, right? Next important things, of course, we all know the plan. I've told you, maybe you had known it even before this thing, but even much more important than this thing is what are the possible mistakes which a common an aspirant can commit who does not have any idea of this preparation beforehand, or who does not have a very concrete idea of this preparation beforehand, right? And these are the mistakes which most of the aspirants commit, right? So if you somehow manage to avoid these mistakes, right, your overall preparation would be more streamlined and would be more effective, right? So what are the mistakes? Trying to make your preparation complex unnecessarily, right? When you have been told that you have to read the NCRTs, you are again and again referring to some other source, right? So wrong source selection, wrong pace of preparation. Let's say you are starting the standard books before the basic NCRT. You are starting the answer writing at the wrong point of time. You are converging your optional and mains answer writing. You are reading the newspaper in the wrong manner, right? So that kind of pace, you should not be making a mistake in that sense, right? Then wrong prioritization of subjects. As in, until and unless you do not know what are the basics of polity, what are the basics of history, what are the basics of economy, reading too much about social justice, governance, internal security, disaster management might not make much of a sense to you, right? So, in that sense, you should have a bare minimum basic idea with you, uh, on which you can build your foundation, right? So there should be a foundation on which you can build your subsequent preparation, right? So do not unnecessarily make your preparation complex and complicated. The next mistake, getting tempted, right? How? By each new source, right? Because there would be n number of new sources which would be coming in your way, in your preparation in the next 15 months. Do not get tempted by too many sources, right? See, the idea is you have to have a bare minimum number of resources, right? An optimum amount of sources so that you can read and revise it again and again and then consolidate into your mind and then implement that thing on the paper, right? So that answer writing gets solidified, right? Otherwise, what would happen? You would keep multiplying your resources and you would get lesser time for revisions, right? Which ultimately would mean that you will not have the enough capacity of your mind to retrieve the information when it would be needed, when you would need to write an answer, right? Which ultimately means that you might end up clearing prelims, but you would never end up clearing mains, right? This can be one of the mistakes which can stop you from clearing mains, of course. And the second thing, even multiplying your sources is a big factor why your prelims preparation would also suffer, right? Because ultimately, in the end, you would not be able to revise all those sources and you would end up confusing yourself and then getting frustrated and getting demotivated, right? So, have an optimum amount of sources with you, have faith on them, test the utility of those sources with the help of previous year questions, right? And keep reading and revising them, right? This could be the best thing you could do to your preparation in the coming 15 months, right? Next is by getting tempted by each new test series in the market, be it for GS Pre, be it for GS mains, be it for optional, right? Use a very good test series. Of course, you by with time you would come to know that, but do not be like you have joined 4 test series of GS prelims as well. You have joined 3 of mains as well. You have joined 3 of optional as well. Ultimately, it would make no sense, and you would end up doing nothing, right? Then getting tempted by each new strategy of your peer or every topper, right? Right? Have faith on what you are doing. The best way you can test as to whether your preparation is moving in the right direction or not is the previous year questions, right? If you are able to understand them, if you are able to comprehend the questions appearing in the previous year questions, or let's say in a good test series in the market, you are on the right track, right? Do not unnecessarily try to search what that topper is saying, what that topper is saying, because that might have worked for him or her. He or she might be talking right, but if there are 1,000 seats in let's say civil services, there are 1,000 ways to prepare for this exam, right? What I am delineating here is a bare minimum or a basic framework. You will give n number of tweaks and turns to your preparation, but that should not compromise the overall essence of preparation, right? So what you are doing is also right, what your friend is doing is also right, provided both of you are not compromising on the bare minimum aspects of preparation, right? Next mistake is regarding the answer writing. What mistake? Starting it at wrong time. Like I told, wrong time could be from tomorrow, from a week after tomorrow, from a month after tomorrow. You need to give yourself a time of 4 to 5 months to consolidate the things in your mind and then begin an answer writing, right? The the industry, the coaching industry will try to tempt you with the daily programs of answer writing, daily one question, daily two questions. So you have to be a judge of yourself there, right? Whether you are ready for that thing. If you feel your preparation is not on point as far as the bare minimum basics are concerned, it is probably the time to consolidate that thing first and then move on to answer it. Right. But yes, of course, if you feel that you have read the NCRTs, you have read the basic sources, you can then start in the answer writing, right? Then resist the temptation of daily answer writing on online platforms, right? 99% of the time, these things will end up eating your time, and finally you would not have anything in your hand, right? If you can, right? By this I mean financially, right? Prefer to do answer writing with proper feedback and evaluation, right? It will increase the output for the same level of input, right? Otherwise, to understand the same thing, you might have to write 50 answers. But if you do it with a proper feedback and evaluation, you might understand the same thing in 10 answers also, right? Then next mistake, once next mistake, ignoring your optional. See, optional is one thing which you can start from tomorrow, right? If you've selected your optional course, and you should continue it till February 2023, right? So do not ignore your optional, because if you think that you would do your optional after your prelims, you would not get that time, right? And optional is one thing which will elevate your preparation, elevate your GS main score to next level, right? And getting a good rank or service without good optional preparation would be very difficult, very, very difficult, right? Next mistake which students commit is ignoring the previous year questions, right? Do not ignore it, as be it prelims, be it mains, GS, or be it your optional, right? Your previous year questions will be the best guide to navigate you through the ocean of resources, through the ocean of strategies, and to finally establish a faith whether you are moving in the right direction or not, right? Next is next is test series. Just like answer writing, test series, and by test series I here mean prelims test series, right? Would make more sense to you when you have done 4 to 5 months of preparation, right? So probably this is not the right time to start with test series. Build your foundation in next 5 6 months, and then you would get a better idea as to whether you can opt for a test series at this point of time, right? And which test series you should be opting, right? Next is the pace of preparation. See, this you might have heard this thing that this journey of UPSC, it is a marathon, right? And it is not a sprint. And while this is true, as far as this phrase is concerned, the important thing is to implement this thing, right? What usually happens, students start the preparation with a lot of fanfare, right? And let's say they just after listening this session, they would study for 16 hours, right? For 2 days, 3 days, and then they would get exhausted and then take a month, 2 months break, right? is the biggest, blunder which you can commit in your preparation. Sustain your preparation, make your preparation sustainable, right? 5 to 6 hours daily for next 2 months, right? And then gradually increase to 10 hours daily, right? So it would be a process which would happen gradually, right? You cannot really study if you are a complete beginner. You cannot study 10 hours from tomorrow, right? 4 hours, 5 hours is manageable, right? Gradually increase it to 10 hours. Then from Feb 2023 to May 2023, you would gradually enhance it to, let's say, 11 or 12 hours, right? On an odd day, it could be 13 to 14 hours as well, but that much more than that is not required, right? The important thing is discipline is the key, right? Your routine will be the decider whether you will make your preparation sustainable or not, right? Your why, as in why you want to do UPSC, that matters, right? But until you don't have proper discipline, things would not really be moving in a right and appropriate manner, right? Right. So try to build a routine which is sustainable, which you know you can sustain, right? Maybe every fortnight you can have a break of one day so that you can recharge yourself, keep half a day off in a week or a one day off in a week in the initial days, right? In the initial phases, right? So that the preparation itself is not a burden on you, right? Give adequate time to recharge yourself, right? Otherwise you would end up frustrating yourself in the next 1 or 2 months, right? Next is, this is not a mistake but an advice from my side. Invest half hour to 1 hour in non UPSC things, right? As in interests and hobbies, right? What this would do, it would broaden your horizon. Moreover, it would give you a much needed break from regular studies. Plus, of course, the interview aspect is there. It would help you there also. Reading novels and everything can be a good option here. And any other, whatever you feel you want to do. Half hour to 1 hour, 1.5 hour in the initial month, right? This much you can invest and it would enhance your preparation, and right, it would not compromise your preparation. Right. The next mistake, don't get mad behind current affairs, right? Of course, current affairs are important, but do not keep preparing them. Don't prepare them and keep preparing them at the cost of static syllabus, right? I have i've told you when you should be or how you should be reading newspaper in different phases of your preparation, and when you should be beginning with the monthly magazines, a newspaper, right? 1 hour to 1.5 hour in the later phases, plus a monthly magazine. This is the maximum you need from the current affairs end, right? Anything additional from that, if you think that is compromising your static syllabus, do not do that, right? The coaching industry, it will come up with multiple current affairs initiatives, but you have to be bit wise in filtering out as to whether you need it or not, right? Then one important thing which many students make a mistake here is focusing on irrelevant things, right? See, if you are a sincere aspirant, you should not do this because, again, it is a crime for your preparation. Irrelevant things like UPSC is unfair, right? It is random, prelims is random, mains is random, optional is random. There are issues of reservation because of which I am not able to do, right? See, if you have decided to appear for this exam, the rules of the exam has been set by UPSC, and the good thing is that the rules are fair, right? In a general sense, they are fair. Of course, there can be 1 or 2% of that subjectivity, which of course creeps in, but more or less the rules are fair, right? So this should be a solace for you, a comfort for you, that okay, the exam I am preparing for gives me an equal opportunity and gives the other as well as an equal opportunity, right? So do not waste your time in unnecessary talk, right? Like this. Of course, when you have a peer group, uh, you are preparing a group of 4 or 5, these things, uh, you get a tendency to invest your or waste your time in these things more, right? So be a bit cautious about these things. See what you can control. If you feel you cannot control the reservation part, let it be, right? Do not waste even a single second on that aspect. If you cannot change the pattern of UPSC, do not waste your time. Just adjust your preparation according to that pattern, right? Invest your time wisely, right? The 30 minutes, 60 minutes which you will waste here, invest that time in your non-UPSC pursuits, right? Which I've talked about earlier, right? This would be the ultimate, you can say, the mantra which you will need for your next 15 months, right? And this does not mean only this irrelevant, this means everything, right? From which subject you should be picking, when you should be picking, what attention you should be giving to that subject, right? How you should be managing your UPSC and non UPSC aspect. Everything would depend how better you would manage your time, right? So this is from my side. I wanted to talk about 2023, right? We are done. Those who have any doubts, want to ask anything, you can ask me.
Hello, sir. Paras here.
Hello, hi Paras.
Sir, I have a question that what should be the approach of for a college student, right? Because as we can see that there are the students who are preparing for 23 or 24. So this is most chance that they are college students. So how can we align college studies with UPSC? Like I am from technical background. Okay, like I am pursuing my college from BSc Honors Agriculture, and whether we see in UPSC, there are totally social subjects like geography, history, politics, all that. So how can we align that both? Because if we
That
focus on one thing, it will harm our graduation, or I can give, or I have to give less time to do UPSC preparations. So how
you see.
to exactly my indirect question is time management for this both.
See, Paras, if you're graduating in 2022, right? Uh, let's say you are graduating or you are getting free from your college around maybe let's say July or June or August, right?
I am graduating in June second week.
You're graduating in June, right?
Yeah,
Then till that time, what you do not have to do much of the things, right? The phase one and phase two are not really that heavy. Maybe even if you can, let's say, even if you can do 50% of what we have decided in phase one and two, right? Even that would be a good deal, right? Because of course you have uh, some time foundations, right? This is the reality. So try to take out as much time as possible for you. 3 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours, right? If you are serious about 2023 attempt. However, if you feel you really cannot manage this much amount of time and somewhere you feel that you have to start all over again from July, from the scratch, then you have to assess your situation in July as to whether you should be appearing in 2023 or you should take 1 year break and appear for 2024, right? Because the basic idea behind this thing is you should be adequately prepared for your prelims as well as for your mains when you are appearing for the first time, right? It should not be that you are going in a half-hearted mode, right? And as in you've just done some of the things and you're going for the first attempt thinking that I will okay see how the exam goes on, right? That should not be the approach. Taking 1 year break is okay, but let the first attempt be a very solid attempt, right? So if you can manage 3 to 4 hours, 2 to 3 hours daily, let's say 20 hours on an average till June, right? Even that is per week, I mean to say, right? Even that is okay, right? However, if you feel that is entirely not in the equation, then maybe you need to consider your decision whether 2023 would be your first attempt or 2024 would be your first attempt, because half-hearted attempt does not make any sense in my opinion.
yes, sir. Actually, I have that concern only because right now what happened that I can study sometimes in a very flow for the 1 week, and suddenly some assignment came or some work came from the college, so it break my tone for regular preparations. So I am having the access of online coaching for UPSC. So for study purpose or for study material or like all that videos, I have no issues. Whether where I am lacking is to how to manage the both the things, because sometimes it I can give 8 to 5 to 6 hours, and sometimes the day or a few days where I cannot give at least 2 to 3 days for preparation.
See,
So
2 to 3 days is okay. That much gap would come when you are in college, but
yeah,
let not that gap be 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, 10 days, right? Try to sneak in 1 hour, 2 hour daily so that at least the momentum is not broken, right? This is the basic essence. That is why I'm trying to say that in a week, try to sneak in at least an input of 20 hours, right? Of course, that can mean that let's say you are studying uh, 5 hours today, 5 hours tomorrow, that is okay. But for the next 5 days, let you should have an average of, let's say, 2 hours daily, right? So that you are at least in that momentum. It should not be that, okay, Paras read for 20 hours in January third week, and then Paras is opening his book in February third week, right? That should not be the case. Of course, things would be a bit difficult to manage, but if you are sincere, this thing can be managed, because most of the students who appear just after graduation, they begin their preparation in the last semester itself, right? So that thing is manageable. Of course, it might affect your grades by 1 or 2 points, but then again, that is one choice which you will have to ultimately make.
Will it be a good decision to start in June or July after graduation complete? Because at least because from last 8 to 9 months I am preparing, but my concern is that still I am not able to complete the NCRTs, because as you told that there is a break come for 1 to 2 months for me, because I have to travel somewhere else for something survey or like that. So it will break my monotonous. So will it be okay, or it will be good to start in June or July, or should start because my last semester is starting from tomorrow? Okay, so will it be good to start with NCRT from tomorrow, or what you will suggest to me?
I will suggest you that at least try to cover up the basic NCRTs till June, right? Maybe if you
Okay,
cannot cover phase one and phase two both till June, at least try to cover the phase one till June,
okay, sir.
right, Paris?
Yeah, okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, welcome. Any doubt to anyone else?
Sir, when SMP is launching batch course for 2023? Because when I have talked with Puneet sir, he told me that we are launching in December ending or in January month.
Paras, you will soon get the information about that thing, maybe in a week or so.
Okay, sir.